Have you ever heard this quote? Comparison is the death of joy. Mark Twain. Or Teddy Roosevelt. Comparison is the thief of joy. One of my sons brought this up in a conversation a while ago, a couple of years ago, and it really hit me. It's a bigger deal than you would think, this comparison thing. And we're wired to do that. What do we have? What do we not have? What do they have? What I don't have? It can dramatically affect your overall well-being, your happiness, your satisfaction, your self-confidence, and your ability to lead a successful and happy life. And so in this video, I'm going to give you a little bit more really critical background and insight as to why that is. I've got a really great example story for you. And then I'm going to give you 7 ways to both get rid of that and put it in its proper place, and a few insights on how you can actually use it to your benefit to make your life better and even find a new way forward and pursue that's right for you.
Helping you find your new way forward to the best years of your life. This is a New Way Forward podcast with your host, Paul Long.
So you probably know what I'm talking about. You see other people and, I wish I was more like her or him, or had what they had, or I wish I was as good as they were at that or this or the other. And what does it do? It makes you feel like crap, makes you feel like a loser. It certainly makes you unhappy, and it undermines your self-esteem. And quite frankly, your ability to pursue, succeed, change your life or whatever. And I want to read you a few quotes here. And I know they're just quotes, but it's the fact that there's a prolific number of quotes about this topic, and even cliches such as comparison is the death of joy. Well, why is that? It's because they're true and because they're important. That's how they become famous quotes, and that's why it's a cliche, but we tend to blow them off. So here are a few of them that I just love, and these are really meaningful. Think about them. The reason we struggle with insecurity is because we compare our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. Stephen Furtick. Yeah, especially with social media. What are we always seeing? We're seeing the wonderful things that people want to show off, but we're not seeing what the rest of their life is like or what it costs them to have that. From an unknown source, every minute you spend wishing you had someone else's life is a minute spent wasting yours. Wayne Dyer. My goal is not to be better than anyone else, but to be better than I used to be, which this video will help you do. From Ernest Hemingway, I love this. There's nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your former self. The upshot of all of that is be careful about comparing yourself to other people, because you never know, again, what the rest of their life is like, or what it took for them to be that way, or whatever. And it's not fair. That's them, not you. It distracts you from you and the way you want to live and what you want to have in life. And so let me give you an example of be careful who you envy and want to copy, because you may regret it. So many years ago, a few months after my first son was born. And we were setting up and doing an interview with the president and CEO of a major global corporation. You know it, you may have their product. And we sat down, and we'd already done some work together and had a good relationship. And while my crew's, tweaking the lighting and the camera and hooking up audio, he says, "Hey, I hear I had a baby. Is that your first one?" I said, "Yes." And he leaned forward and he said to me, "Whatever you do, prioritize them, prioritize your family and your wife over everything else. Don't let what you're doing here take precedence over it." And I was like, wow, you don't expect that from somebody like that in that kind of a setting. And I looked at him kind of quizzically, and he said, "Look, here's my story. I spent my whole adult life prioritizing and putting aside everything else to achieve this position. And it's almost like as soon as I got in this position, I realized I'm only going to have this for a few years, and then I'm going to have nothing." He said, I don't have any great friendships. My wife and I are somewhat estranged, and I don't really know my kids. I never really developed a life with my kids because my whole emphasis was on this. So in a few years, the moment I sat in this chair as chairman and CEO, I realized, oh my gosh, it's over. And what am I going to have left? There's a lesson from that. So here is the number one thing you can start doing. And that is be aware of the comparison trap. Look, we're pretty much wired as human beings to compare ourselves to others or think negatively, more about what we don't have and who we aren't rather than what we do have and who we are. That's great. So the biggest thing is to put an intention on putting your attention on when you do that. Oh, there I am comparing. When you start becoming aware of it, that's when you can shift it and kick in some of the tips that you're about to hear about. Number 2, focus on your own journey. Everybody's life and situation and everything is different. And they may have had benefits that you didn't have, or they may have been overcoming struggles that you didn't have, and vice versa. You see my point? What's important? Focusing on you. Focus on you, and especially with social media and other media, because we're always seeing the best, the highlight reel of everybody's life, not the behind the scenes. So when you focus on yourself and you're grateful for what you do have and who you are and what you're doing, that's going to improve your life and your attitude about yourself immensely. Okay, number 3, practicing gratitude. Now, being grateful isn't just a nice to have or a little thing to do. It is a power. In fact, I've done a whole video on it. I'll put the link in the description for you to watch it. Because what I discovered in diving into it, it really helped change my life. When I started practicing gratitude all the time, daily, but before I lifted my head off the pillow, I'd take 1 minute and think about what I was grateful for. And sometimes the obvious things. It's cold outside, I'm in a warm home, or my family, or whatever, big things. And then I'd do it before I went to bed at night. And it became a habit. And here's what happened. I became happier. I became more satisfied with myself and my life. My attitude was better. And then it certainly helps with the comparisons. Because while it may be like, it'd be kind of nice to have what he or she has, I was very grateful for what I had. And it raised my self-esteem. And after all, you can't be unhappy if you're being grateful. Number 4, understand the hidden realities behind the envy. I've already touched on this, that CEO story that I told you. Or, people where it's like, oh, look at those nice cars, look at that lake house, look at that home, look at that. But you never know what kind of price they're paying in order to have that, or what the rest of their life is like. They may envy you because you're happier and you've got a better life. Whatever it is, this goes back to focus on your journey. Number 5, limit exposure to comparison triggers. You know what they are. Social media and media is number 1. And when I was researching this, I came across this in so many different things that I read or what I talked to people about. And so a lot of people would go on a social media fast, a diet, in which they would avoid it for 3 days and then a week. And they said they felt so much better. Their attitude was better. They felt better about themselves. And they also said, I didn't waste so much time in my life. But also there are friends and situations, some people that are worth avoiding in order to not press that trigger in you. Number 6, celebrate others' successes without losing yourself. All right, I'll be honest with you. I had a little bit of trouble with this one. I'm only human. Because sometimes it'd be like, oh yeah, I'm really so happy for you. But the thing is that I did try it. And I did apply it. Because there were a couple of instances right after I, learned this point. And you know what? Sure enough, it took that comparison away. It made me feel good about myself. And in both cases, I know. I stepped back and I thought, you know what? They deserve recognition and praise for what they did. And in a way, it was kind of inspiring to me because I was looking at it that way. And number 7, as promised, a way to use comparisons to your benefit. And that is comparing yourself to the way others succeeded or have accomplished something or overcome something or are having a great life. So it's not that kind of negative comparison about, oh, they have this and I don't have that. Okay, they have it, you want it, and you're saying, how did that person do that? It can be simple as your golf swing, like comparing my golf swing to Tiger Woods. It'll never be as good as his, but I might learn something and be better because of it. To how did this person handle overcoming a problem, succeeding at this, handling this skill, or whatever. There you are using it for a positive result. And so look at all of the positive dividends from doing this. All of a sudden, you're feeling better about yourself and your life because you're being grateful for it and you're appreciating and you're realizing, well, that's his story, that's her story. Or, people that it's like, oh, I really envy him. And then I find out more and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't trade my life for anything for that. It gives everything a proper context. And it takes out that negativism, that beating yourself up all the time or thinking about what you don't have and who you aren't versus who you are and what you do have. And so it can be transformative and it can be a true power and enabler and a success factor in not only living and appreciating a great life, but pursuing something new, whether it's a whole life or some part of it. It gives you that foundation that you need. And who knows, in the end, it could be that other people are envying you and comparing themselves to you. Good luck.
Learn more ways to enhance your life and discover a new way forward that's perfect for you by watching these videos or any others on my channel. Oh, and be sure to subscribe.